It's said that over 8 million people go missing worldwide a year, and millions are still missing to this day. Today we're going to look at some of the strangest disappearances that just don't add up. From people getting kidnapped in the middle of the night from their bed to other people walking off never to be found again. Let's talk about this and more only in today's video, Top 10 Disappearances That Make No Sense. Now if you love true crime cases and mysteries, then you have to check out the documentary called Finding Leigh, A Tangled Web on Magellan TV. Magellan TV is a membership streaming service filled with top quality and entertaining documentaries. They have over 3,000 titles to choose from, and they add new programs on a weekly basis, so there's always something for you to watch. It's the site that I go to watch all of my true crime docs, like the one I just mentioned, Finding Leigh, which surrounds the mysterious kidnapping and murder of 21-year-old Leigh Matthews. Was the crime committed for money, for pleasure, or just for the sake of killing? Well, she actually deserves a spot on today's list, so we will start off the countdown with her story and the documentary, and you'll find out then. But make sure you guys all check out Magellan TV. What's great is that the shows are available in 4K without any additional fees and no ads or commercials. You can even stream it on a number of devices or cast it from your phone to the TV to watch it on the big screen. If you're interested, go ahead and check the link in the description box for a 1-month free trial with Magellan TV. And they also have gift cards available if you love it and want to gift it to someone else. So if you're interested, click the link below to unlock Magellan's entire collection of documentaries. Now let's start off the countdown with Finding Leigh. On Friday, July 9th, 2004, 21-year-old Leigh Matthews was abducted from the parking lot of her university. The day before, she was out celebrating her birthday with her friends. Little did she know that that would be the last birthday she would ever celebrate. Shortly after her kidnapping, her father received a phone call from an unknown man. He said he demanded ransom in return for the safety of their daughter. Should they not comply, they were going to kill Leigh. The father ended up giving the kidnapper what he wanted, but days went by and they still didn't hear from their daughter. Sadly, the Matthews family didn't get the happy ending they hoped for. A couple days later, Leigh's body was found in a field. Now, this case isn't so straightforward. They did catch Leigh's killer and he pled guilty, but there's a lot they still don't know, which they go into depth on in the documentary. For starters, a lot of the information the killer said in his testimony didn't add up. He said he killed Leigh in the field and then left her there and burned her clothes. Well, one, there wasn't enough blood found at the crime scene for that to be the spot where she died. And two, they analyzed the bugs around and in her, and it showed them that her body was new to the area, so she had been placed there after she was already dead. So now they wonder, where was she taken before the field? Did the killer act alone or was there an accomplice? And lastly, why did he target Leigh and kill her? The documentary aims to answer all this and more, so I highly recommend you all check it out. Remember, click the link in our description. In our 9th spot today we have Barbara Follet. On December 7, 1939, author Barbara Follet got in an argument with her husband and left the house. She disappeared without a trace and hasn't been seen or heard from since. The body has never been found. So according to her husband, she left with only $30 in her pocket. Nowadays, that would have been worth around $589. Now, her husband, Nickerson Rogers, waited 2 weeks before calling the police, which is suspicious on its own. Why did he wait so long? Although a number of people suspect Rogers, there was no evidence suggesting foul play. Also, the media wasn't alerted about her disappearance until 1966. That's because the missing persons report was filed under the name Rogers and not Barbara's last name, so no one knew that the famous writer went missing. Now, was this done on purpose by her husband so that people didn't know she was gone? I don't know, it's all very suspicious, and it's hard to believe she could leave with anyone having any sightings of her. Moving on at number 8 we have Paula Jean Welden. Paula Jean Welden disappeared on December 1st, 1946. That day she told her roommate she was going out for a walk, but Paula never returned home that night. Now during her walk she was spotted by a number of other students. In fact, one of her friends picked her up at around 2:45 and drove her close to his house, and then around 4 p.m. another group of school friends saw her about to climb a trail. But around that time it was getting darker out and colder and she wasn't dressed appropriately. Authorities were alerted when Paula didn't show up to class the following day. To this day, we don't know what happened to her. Did she fall off the trail and hurt herself? Was she kidnapped on her way back to the dorm? No one knows. What is strange though is that a couple of years later a local man was caught bragging to his friends saying he knew where Paula's body was, but he could never lead the police to the gravesite. So we don't know what to think of that, and to this day no body or personal belongings have been found. Moving on, at number 7 we have Walter Collins. Now when I first heard about this story it creeped me the hell out, so just prepare yourself. In the 1920s, a young mother reported her son, Walter Collins, missing. 5 months later, police brought Walter back home. Except it wasn't her son. But the police were like, no ma'am, this is your son, just take the boy. In fact, they went as far as to call her a terrible mother for not recognizing her own son and then placed her in a mental hospital. The real Walter Collins has never been found. It's thought that maybe he was the victim of the serial killer Gordon Stewart Northcott, but we still don't know for sure. To this day, the case of Walter Collins still remains a huge mystery. Another big part of this mystery, why were the police so adamant that imposter Walter was her real son? Seriously. In our 6th spot today we have Patty Blough, Renee Bruhl, and Ann Miller. On July 2nd, 1966, 3 young women, Patty, Renee, and Ann, all hopped on a motorboat at a Lake Michigan beach. They were last seen in their bathing suits headed off on this boat. They never returned home. And of course, there's a number of theories as to what happened to them. The most famous one is that the girls were on their way to a floating abortion clinic, but during the procedure something went wrong and one of the girls sadly passed away. The clinic was then like, oh snap, we can't have 2 witnesses, so they just killed the other girls and dumped them into the water. I mean, that's extremely messed up, and obviously it's just a theory, we still don't know what truly happened to them. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Paul Jepson. Now this next case happened in the same area as Paula went missing in, you know, the girl that I talked about before? Yeah. In fact, the area has been given the name the Bennington Triangle because it's the area in which a number of hikers and residents go missing without a trace. It's like the Bermuda Triangle. Not only that, but a number of UFO sightings have been reported in this area. So, is it all correlated? Maybe aliens are abducting people there. Anyways, Paul Jepson was another victim of the Bennington Triangle. In October of 1950, Paul Jepson was out on his farm with his family. That's when his mom told him to go back into the truck while she finishes up her farm duties. When she returned to the truck, her son was nowhere to be found. Now, police did bring in bloodhounds to track his scent. And guess what? They tracked his scent up until Glastonbury Mountains, which is eerily close to where Paula was last seen. Coincidence? I think not. That's hella suspicious, I'm just saying. In our 4th spot today we have Mary Badaracco. In 1984, Mary Badaracco disappeared from her home. Her car was left in her driveway, but the side mirror was smashed in. On top of that, her wedding ring and car keys were left on the kitchen counter. But Mary was nowhere to be found. Now, according to her husband, Amy took off with $100,000 in exchange for their home. The two had been planning to get divorced, but no evidence of her taking that amount of money was ever found. On top of that, her husband never reported her missing, just insisted that Mary had left everything behind and wanted to start a new life. But her daughters were like, hell no, that's not our mom at all. After diving deeper into the case, it was discovered that Mary's husband was incredibly toxic. The two would often get in fights and he would hit her. So the police classified the case as a homicide, but the murderer has never been caught, and they don't have enough evidence to pin it on the husband. Another thing that doesn't make sense, sometime after Mary disappeared, her car did too, and later the police received a tip that the husband buried the car somewhere. I just wish that we had answers, like where did Mary go? Is she safe and living a new life somewhere, or was she killed by her husband during a heated argument? In our 3rd spot today we have Jessica Gutierrez. On June 6, 1986, Jessica Gutierrez was taken from her bed in her home during the middle of the night and was never seen again. The next morning her mom entered her room and found the curtains were ripped off the window and the front door was open. So it's believed that the kidnapper or kidnappers entered the house through the window and left through the front door. The creepiest part? Her sister was in the room with her when it happened. She claimed that Jessica was taken by a man with the magic hat and the beard. That's all we know about this case. Jessica's family believes that she was abducted by a close friend or someone that she knew. It's just a very sad and mysterious case. In our second spot today, we have Rico Harris. Rico Harris was a well-known basketball player for the Harlem Globetrotters. Now, a lot happened over the years, and in 2014 he was fired and then decided to live in Seattle with his long-distance girlfriend that lived there. He was in LA visiting his mom, but his plan was to then drive from LA to Seattle. Sadly, he never would make it. His car was found abandoned at the side of the road in Sacramento. The car was out of gas and had a nearly dead battery. In his car was his backpack and a phone with a video of him from that night. Harris was nowhere to be found. Now, days after his disappearance, people did see that they saw a giant person walking along State Route 16, which could have been Harris since he was 6'9". So it could be that his car broke down during the drive and he left on foot to go try and find help. But we don't know for sure. And in our number one spot today, we have Madison Scott. This case has always given me the creeps. It just doesn't sit well with me. On May 28, 2011, 20-year-old Madison Scott disappeared from the Hogsback Lake campsite in British Columbia. There was a birthday party being held at the lake that night and people were going to camp out there, but they didn't follow through with the plan. Maddie, however, already set up her tent and was planning on staying the night there anyways. She was an experienced camper and loved camping. She had camped out in that area a number of times. However, she was last seen around 4 a.m. when the last group of people left. The next morning, people were cleaning up when they saw her tent beside her truck, but Maddie was nowhere to be found. Police had dragged the bottom of the lake and aerial searches were conducted, but nothing ever turned up. Police even did polygraph tests on the partygoers, but it led to no possible suspects. Police think that Maddie left the campsite in someone's vehicle, but besides that, no one really knows what happened to her. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these cases creeped you out the most. Honestly, they all scare me for a number of different reasons. With that being said, why don't you smash that like button, obviously subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see ya when I see ya.